Good morning, chemistry lovers! Welcome to the Daily Cool Potassium Asticides podcast, where chemistry meets your ears. Today, our story is a little heavy. The Radium Girls. A story where women working in a factory face terrible health issues from a radioactive substance. Can you guess which substance it is? And no, this story is not sci-fi. It's the complete opposite. Sci-non-fi. So, sit down or start that morning commute because this story will surely illuminate your day.
On December 21st, 1898, Marie and Pierre Curie made a breakthrough in the fields of science by discovering the radioactive element radium in the form of radium chloride. After multiple Nobel Peace Prizes, radium soon became popularized as a health tonic. Spas were infusing their water with the element, toothpastes were being marketed containing radium, agencies were giving out radium injections, and facial creams were using radium as an ingredient to rejuvenate the skin. In addition, radium salts could be mixed with zinc to emit a very faint glow in the dark. During World War I, soldiers complained about not being able to read their watches in the dark trenches. After the discovery of radium's glow, the problem became solvable with the usage of radium-laced paint. Thus, U.S. Radium Corporation signed a contract with the United States Army to create watch faces painted with this paint known as undark, allowing soldiers to read their watches in the trenches without giving away their positions. U.S. Radium hired thousands of young women as factory workers due to their small hands and paid each woman to paint the faces of each watch, encouraging the women to use their lips and tongues to create a fine-tipped paintbrush and thus more precise watch faces. While the corporation informed all women that the paint was safe to use, higher-ups in the company were becoming aware of the negative effects of radium and refused to touch the paint themselves. The corporation did not warn the women about the negative health effects of radium poisoning. Some girls in the factory were even painting their fingernails and teeth with the Undark brand paint. Shortly after these factories opened, the factory girls began complaining about weird health issues including jaw pain, tooth loss, anemia, and arthritis. Multiple girls were suffering from these symptoms, often losing teeth, gums, and cheekbones. The situation became worse when multiple girls began dying. When Grace Fryer's teeth began falling out and she went in for an x-ray, she discovered her jaw was riddled with tiny holes. People began to suggest that the weird symptoms might be a result of Grace Fryer's former employer, U.S. Radium. Finding a doctor to confirm that Grace Fryer's illness was a result of the undark paint proved difficult in a town essentially owned by that corporation. U.S. Radium paid doctors and dentists to claim the girls had syphilis, and even rewrote a professional's report to claim that all girls were in perfect health. Once media exposure began to grow, though, Grace Fryer decided to sue the corporation, with the help of 5 other factory girls, now known as the Radium Girls. Finding a lawyer was about as difficult as finding a doctor not paid off by U.S. Radium. Eventually, the girls were able to bring a lawsuit to court, but U.S. Radium managed to continuously postpone proceedings so that few girls were in good enough health to testify. In 1928, the case finally went to court, but the decision was postponed multiple more months because U.S. Radium leaders were on vacation. The Radium Girls ended up settling out of court for less than half of what they had originally asked for, along with annual stipends from the U.S. Radium Corporation, few of which were ever collected. By the mid-1930s, all 5 Radium Girls had passed away as a result of radium poisoning. U.S. Radium maintained innocence in the death of all factory girls.
While there are minute amounts of radium in the environment, potentially exposing everyone to it, it's not usually very harmful unless you're exposed to high concentrations for extended periods of time. However, if you are exposed for a long period of time, it can result in many negative health effects, such as anemia, cataracts, necrosis of the jaw, also known as radium jaw, cancer, and even death. These effects are due to the emission of alpha, beta, and gamma particles from the radium, although most of these effects are due to the gamma radiation. Since gamma radiation can travel fairly long distances through the air, just being around waste sites can be dangerous to your health. Gamma radiation is a type of ionizing radiation, which means it's energetic enough to break bonds in genetic material, structural components of cells, and other biological molecules. And although alpha particles, which are also radiated from radium, can't penetrate the skin, due to the fact that factory workers were eating the paint, the ingestion of the alpha particles could have been damaging to the surrounding tissue. All these different types of radiation likely led to a large portion of these factory workers developing acute radiation syndrome, or ARS. Some symptoms of ARS are nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea in the early stages. And although in the middle stages patients can look healthy, the condition gets worse until it gets so severe that it causes very negative health effects, such as bone marrow depletion, hydration, and most likely death.
The popular luminescence of radium isn't magic. Its glow comes from its chemical makeup. But let's start with the basics of radium. Radium was first discovered by Pierre and Marie Curie. It is a highly reactive alkaline earth metal, and the name refers to all of its isotopes. Its radioactivity is extremely high, and due to the radiation it emits, it is generally a lot hotter than its surroundings. Radium is actually 2.7 million times more radioactive than uranium due to its short half-life. As for its glowing feature, there is a process. Radium decays into the radioactive noble gas radon, which is also highly radioactive. The decay of radiation produces ionizing radiation. Ionizing radiation is a type of radiation that carries enough energy to free the electrons from atoms. The electrons are called beta particles, and light is produced from these beta particles with a process. When ionizing radiation interacts with matter, it is radioluminescent, which is the light produced from beta particles. This happens when one radiation particle collides with an atom or molecule. This energetic collision excites the electron to a higher energy level. The electron then decays from its high energy state to its ground energy state by emitting extra energy as a photon of light. Since the photon is often in the ultraviolet range of the spectrum, therefore cannot be seen by the human naked eye, it is often mixed with a phosphor. A phosphor is a chemical that releases light when struck by a particle. In this case, the photon excites the electrons in the phosphor, thus creating light. A long process, but it definitely creates the glow that everyone was looking for.